When you hear the name Gamera, what comes to your mind? A giant turtle? Flying through the sky like a UFO? Maybe cheesy aliens? Maybe an Atlantean guardian who'll protect the Earth at all costs? Regardless of what you think of the Gamera series, when I think of Gamera, I think of Rebirth. In nearly every Gamera movie, at some point in the film, Gamera is put in a period of downtime. Typically this is after a skirmish with the main monster antagonist of the film as a way to give the human characters some time to prepare for the final battle. But for me it's sort of a central theme of Gamera. For him to be taken out of the fight and then reborn. No matter how many beatings Gamera seems to take, he always seems to get back up. I bring you all here today because I would like to take a look at my One Monstrous Moment. A scene from the second film of the Heisei Gamera trilogy, Advent of Legion. That scene? Gamera is reborn. For those of you in the audience who aren't exactly familiar with Advent of Legion, here's a brief rundown of the plot up to this point. In the January of 1997, or at least presumably January given that it's the coldest month of the year in Japan, and it is freezing in this movie, a meteor shower hits Hokkaido near Lake Shikotsu, containing the insectoid creatures that later in the movie are called Legion. The Legion soldiers quickly set up a giant flower-like pod in Sapporo, which they plan to launch. Gamera swoops in to destroy the pod before it can cause any major damage, and destroys it with his fireballs. But he ends up getting overwhelmed by the Legion soldiers and needing to retreat. As soon as Gamera is out of sight, the Legion Queen, who, as far as I'm aware, doesn't really seem to have a consistent name. She's referred to as simply the Queen, Queen Legion, the big one, just Legion, and Mother Legion by various sources, whether it be by the fans, or outside material, or just the movie itself. I'm just gonna call her Mother Legion here because that's what I usually call her. Mother Legion appears and attempts to make her escape before being presumably shot down above Sanriku Bay. Later on in the movie, a second pod is set up in Sendai, and the Mother Legion reappears alongside it. Once again, Gamera shows up to take her on, but it is completely outmatched, getting sliced open, stabbed in the shoulder, and has his shell shattered when she creates a ray with her microwave shell that obliterates the entire surrounding area. After Mother Legion makes her escape, Gamera turns his eyes to the pod, but it's too late and the pod launches, leaving Gamera presumed dead. Now, onto the scene itself. While Mother Legion and her army are launching an all-out assault on Ashikaga, in the ruins of Sendai, Asagi Kusanagi, a girl who can speak to Gamera, comes to see the Guardian with Midori, the chief researcher on Legion. Children from all over Japan have come to see Gamera. The camera every now and then cuts to a small fire keeping everyone warm in the cold winter snow. While the fire starts to slowly build brighter, Asagi looks at the fallen warrior, while Midori seems confused. Why does this girl believe Gamera will be reborn? A girl amongst the crowd of children asks. The battle is getting worse, nearly hopeless. For every small jab the JSDF gets on Mother Legion, she pulls out another trick. When she's fired on by tanks, she fires off her microwave shell. When shot by planes, she creates her own air sport. Once again, the girl asks. Midori seems pretty unsure if Gamera will wake up, but Asagi is sure of Gamera's rebirth, assuring the little girl. Midori stares in disbelief at the fire as it begins to build and build, starting to surround Gamera in the shape of Asagi's Magatama, the jewel she carries to stay in connection with him. The earth begins to quake, and when it stops, the soot and moss covering Gamera bursts, revealing his very much alive form, much to the disbelief of Midori, but to the joy of the children and Asagi. Gamera lets out a mighty roar before standing to take flight and resume his unfinished duel with Mother Legion. Midori takes note of Asagi's bleeding hand, but Asagi refuses her aid because So why did I pick this scene for my one monstrous moment? Well, this scene has a lot in it that, in my opinion, summarizes what Gamera is all about. In a way, it's a condensation of the entire Gamera series in one scene. The first thing to note is the incredible performances by actresses Ayako Fujitani and Miki Mizuno as Asagi Kusanagi and Midori Honami. As Asagi and Midori are walking up to see the dead body of Gamera, Asagi looks straight at him, but Midori looks mildly embarrassed to be here. Almost as if she sees herself as being above all the spirituality going on around her. I'd like to note a previous scene that I think is important to mention here. In the scene where Midori and Obitsu are reading up on Asagi's telepathy in the computer lab, Midori has to leave before they can actually read it. Obitsu and Tetsuko Ono's character, of which I could not find the name, don't really read too much of it due to accidentally deleting the file, but at least they get a decent look at it. Midori didn't get that short skim through the article, therefore she doesn't really know or understand Asagi's connection to Gamera very well. She keeps looking back at the crowd, almost as if she's thinking, what do these people think's gonna happen? Do they think Gamera's gonna get up? Meanwhile, Asagi stares deep at the giant turtle, since she believes he'll come back to life to fight again. Over the course of the scene, Midori becomes more convinced that maybe Gamera will return to the realm of the living. While Asagi convinces the little girl who is crying that Gamera's not out of the fight yet, she also kind of convinces Midori to trust in Gamera's revival, seeing Asagi be so adamant that Gamera will return. After a while, she even puts her hands into a praying position, showing that even though it might seem primitive or unscientific, she's willing to ask for Gamera's help. And to her surprise, it works. Another great thing about the scene is, well, the scenery. The background makes the entire scene feel cold and hopeless. And with the constant cuts to the bout with Legion becoming more and more desperate, there's a feeling of tension for Gamera to reawaken before it's too late. But as the situation in Ashikaga gets more dire, the fire gets warmer, larger, brighter. When the scene starts, the fire is just a background element, not something that gets much focus, and only really one shot to itself at the end of the first chunk. But the more Mother Legion and her soldiers advance, the fire illuminates the scene more and more. The second cut to Gamera shows him partially obscured by the flames, and the children in the audience are now illuminated by a soft orange glow. Notice that the girl crying isn't illuminated by the flame, because she's worried that Gamera may never wake up. By the third cut back from Ashikaga, Asagi and Midori are now completely illuminated by the flame. The fire gets struck by gusts of wind, but rather than blowing it out, they fan the flames. Now the embers are floating through the entire night sky. They're shining bright like stars as they turn into streaks of mana. They slowly surround Gamera and take a Magatama-like form. The mana too begins to glow intensely. As Gamera is bathed in the mana's light, the music swells. It goes from the soft main motif to this crescendo of hope. The scene is just made incredibly well. On top of that, again, the scene basically summarizes the Gamera series as a whole to me. Gamera can take as many beatings as his opponents throw at him, but he's determined to save the Earth, even if he's impaled or if he falls into an explosion or loses an arm. He'll cheat death to protect the planet from whatever seeks to threaten it. He's one of the most unstoppable forces in any kaiju movie. But also, he's the friend of all children. Regardless of what adults seem to think of him, kids are always going to believe in Gamera. Gamera can seem dead whether as a franchise or as a character, but he will come back. He is inevitable. I remember back when the 2015 Gamera movie got canceled, I basically thought Gamera might never come back, but sure enough, he'll return. And depending on when you're watching this, he is back. The Gamera series as a whole is a series of comebacks. No matter how hard he falls, whether it be in terms of critical reception or box office bombs, he'll always get back up. And he'll always give us a quality kaiju movie or saga whenever he does, even rivaling Godzilla sometimes. Anyways, that was my One Monstrous Moment. This has been the Maniacal Fable, hoping you stay maniacal and hoping Gamera Rebirth is just as great as what came before.